I'm Tim Brooks from MakeUseOf.com, and today I'll be reviewing the long-awaited Apple Watch. After what feels like years of speculation, months of hype, and numerous competitors pipping them to the post, Apple has finally unleashed its fabled watch. Billed as both a timepiece and wearable gadget, the Apple Watch is entirely dependent on an iPhone for operation, slotting into the iOS ecosystem and doing what no other smartwatch is able to do. In the box, you'll get an Apple Watch in your choice of aluminium, stainless steel, or gold, the watch band you chose when you ordered the unit, and a funky new magnetic charger which loosely clips onto the back of the watch. You can mix and match watches and bands, but for this review's purpose we're taking a look at the Apple Watch Sport with a black silicone band. Like most other Apple gadgets, the watch is essentially just a big screen, and nothing gets in the way of the main show. It works just like iOS, inviting you to smear the hardened glass with finger grease and providing a very tactile user experience. The screen is clear, easy to read even in bright sunlight, and even seems to work well with specks of water on the surface. There are two physical inputs, the digital crown for scrolling, zooming, and generally navigating without completely obscuring your view, and a dedicated speed dial button for getting in touch with people quickly. The design feels typically Apple, and though the aluminium finish makes for a light and potentially quite soft chassis, it feels well made, solid, and incredibly comfortable on the wrist. The included silicone bands are incredibly comfortable, if a little soft and prone to warping. The unit is water resistant and rated to withstand a depth of 1 meter for 30 minutes. In testing, it withstood being worn in the shower and vigorous dishwashing, but for a sport watch this may not be suitable for everyone. The Apple Watch runs watchOS, a slimmed down version of iOS that shares many of the same apps as the iPhone and iPad. When you put it on your wrist, you'll be prompted for a passcode, and once unlocked, it will remain so until you take it off your wrist. You can also have the Apple Watch unlock when your iPhone unlocks too. Notifications take over the show while you're wearing the watch, with everything that normally appears on your iPhone being routed via your wrist instead. Haptic feedback feels great and is particularly useful for setting silent alarms and timers, which you absolutely will not miss. The watch takes the same approach to software as the iPhone in that everything is its own self-contained app, with the clock being the watch's default application. It's here that you're able to customize your watch face, with a good selection of Apple-sanctioned designs to choose from. There's no sign of third-party watch faces yet, but I'd put money on it being announced within the year. Watch faces are customizable and can be set to display different information such as upcoming appointments and weather, moon phases, and a world clock, or provide different quick shortcuts and activity information and timers. Here is where you will access your moments, short bursts of information like the current weather, power status of your watch, or resting heart rate. You can also ping your iPhone to find out where it is and integrate third-party apps into moments. Calls and messages are well integrated despite the cramped interface. You can add up to 12 contacts to your speed dial, controllable using the crown, and phone calls on your wrist are clear and incredibly convenient when you can't find or necessarily reach your phone. Messaging depends on canned responses and speech to text, which works surprisingly well even when you're surrounded by traffic and other background noise. The other apps that live on your watch are like controls for their iPhone counterparts. None of them show a huge amount of information or provide complete control, but it's enough considering the rather tiny size. As an example, BBC News shows a short version of the full story, Evernote cuts off notes, and Runkeeper only allows you to start exercise, rather than accessing profile and other information. The watch doesn't try to do too much, but it does provide convenient control over many features that normally require you to reach into your pocket. Apple's watch isn't the sort of device you think you need until you're invited to try one out for yourself. From an outside perspective, it's a very expensive and unnecessary gadget that, aside from some fancy heart rate sensors, doesn't do anything your iPhone won't. But then it gets a hold of you. Moving many phone functions to your wrist just makes sense. Alarms and timers, taking phone calls like Inspector Gadget, starting a workout with an app like Runkeeper. It's also convenient when you don't have to find or reach for your iPhone, and you never miss a notification because they're effortless to check. At certain points while testing, it was clear that the Apple Watch very clearly achieves much of what Apple intended. Carrying bags for shopping and receiving a text message or phone call on your wrist, cooking dinner while checking an Evernote recipe, using a timer or stopwatch quickly while checking where you are with maps, these are all handled with ease and grace by the Apple Watch. Battery life is surprisingly good too, and as someone who was skeptical of a wearable you have to charge often, I found the watch could last a full 2 days of moderate usage, reduced to a day and a half when taking lots of phone calls and tracking physical activity. It's also very convenient to charge. The magnetic charger comes with plenty of length, and most of us are never that far from a USB socket for it to be that inconvenient. It's just another device you have to get used to charging. Another aspect of the Apple Watch that impressed me was the activity tracking, in particular the reminders to stand up and move a bit. Being able to visualize physical activity is surprisingly motivating, and the reminders to stand up and move will be most beneficial to those who live a rather sedentary lifestyle. While the Apple Watch may be expensive, if it can promote healthy living and exercise by telling you to get up and move around, it may be a wise investment in the long term. It may even pay for itself. For the Apple Watch to truly work for you, you'll need to reevaluate its status as a timepiece. From my perspective, this isn't a watch, it's a wearable gadget. Like our other gadgets, it's expensive, it requires charging, and it's probably altogether unnecessary. At present, it's one of a kind. No other smartwatch can do what this watch can do. No other smartwatch can interact with iOS in such a way. No other smartwatch works with your iPhone quite like it. If you're still not sure you want one, don't necessarily write it off yet, but if the idea of an Apple wearable that integrates seamlessly with your other gadgets entices you, you won't be disappointed. To read our full review and be in with the chance of winning one, head to makeuseof.com.